Question on my Instagram account this week, you know, and nobody answered the question. So I'm going to keep running the question until I get an answer. Because it's a serious question. And the question is this: who needs a COVID-19 vaccine when you have an effective prevention and treatment, namely Paximune? Who needs a vaccine when you have effective prevention and treatment? Isn't that all a vaccine was ever supposed to do, was just to prevent the spread of a contagion? Well, don't we have the research that shows that COVID-19 in China was stopped in its tracks when people started using intranasal alpha interferon? Isn't that what the research shows? I thought that Dr. Fauci said he was guided by the science. Well, isn't that science? You see, so we have to thrust the science, I won't say down the throat of dishonest people, and they are dishonest because I just received my personal copy from Dr. Judy Mikovits. I hope I'm saying her name correctly, Mikovits. But I had a conversation with her last week, and she was kind enough to send me a copy of both of her books, The Plague of Corruption. You see, she was an insider, and because she was a whistleblower doing research about alpha interferon on the inside at NIH, they threw her in jail. You see, so this has been a movement for a long time to establish the scientific validity of alpha interferon. So she was an insider, and we had a nice conversation because I didn't know what she was doing on the inside when we were on the outside, like rebels on the outside, pounding on the gates. She was working on the inside. And so we compared notes and had a wonderful conversation. And she's with what we're doing. And so look forward to Dr. Judy Mikovits, or Mikovits. She'll straighten out the right way to say it, on one of our future conference calls. She said that she would do it, it's just a matter of scheduling it, and then we'll have the great Dr. Judy Mikovits on Your Immunity Project conference call. I also had some other interesting conversations this week, since last week. Do you know that I actually spoke to two former Surgeon Generals? Yeah, David Satcher, he called from Morehouse College of Medicine. Now, again, I'm mentioning names of people, and I'm saying that I had a conversation with them. They're interested in the Your Immunity Project. I'm not saying that any one of these people have endorsed formally the Your Immunity Project. But I am saying we had a conversation. And why shouldn't I talk to David Thatcher? He's a former classmate of mine. I've been knowing him since I was a medical student. And then he went on to become the director of the CDC in Atlanta after being the president of Meharry Medical College. He invited me down there to speak at Meharry Medical College at the height of the HIV epidemic. He closed the college. He had all 4 classes of students come to hear me lecture, and he made all the faculty come and all the professors. And I introduced to them what we're actually talking about, the new paradigm in medicine. This was years ago. And then he went on to become the director of the CDC. And then after that, he became the first black Surgeon General. So I'm proud to say he's my friend. He's my classmate. We went to the same medical school, Case Western Reserve School of Medicine, Cleveland, Ohio. Now, of course, he's a little smarter than me, MD, PhD. See, I've never reached that high. And so he played a magnificent game on the inside, and I was playing the best game I could on the outside. And every time he came to D.C., when he was the director of the CDC, he used to stop by the Abundant Life Clinic, and we would sit down and have conversations, you know, about the old days, and he would update me on things, and I would update him on things. And so we had a nice conversation. He's up in age now, but he's wishing us well. We have the spirit of the former Surgeon General. And then the other Surgeon General that we had, Dr. Joycelyn Elders. I was on a conference call, an international call. There is an international medical committee in formation. They're calling for an international committee of medical experts to address the global COVID-19 problem. In other words, this is being organized by Helga Zepp LaRouche in Germany. We had representatives on the call from France, from Africa, from Taiwan and other parts of Asia. So one of the presenters on that call, along with myself, was the former Surgeon General, Dr. Joycelyn Elders. And so we're forming a coalition. It might be loose in some parts, but it's tightening up in other parts. We also had conversations, of course, with Dr. Tom Ellison, who hopefully he's on the call, and maybe we can hear from him in a few minutes. But he's an expert on Cuban medicine. He's an expert on medical politics, I would call it, the politics of medicine. And politics is the science that decides who gets what. And so we need somebody like that who knows where the money is. We found out that Meharry Medical College has $40 million to address COVID-19. We found out that there are dollars allocated to do clinical trials, community-based clinical trials. And so we just need to get our politicians lined up so they can write the grants and we can get the money flowing to finance what we're trying to do. This is a grassroots movement, but hey, if they already allocated some of the tax dollars that you already paid out, okay, let's get some of that back and do the clinical trials. Think about what a clinical trial is. You see, there, false information doesn't help anybody. The Bible says it's the truth that will set you free. So false information doesn't set you free from disease. False science doesn't do that. True science does. And so we need people with ethics to carry out true science, to answer true questions. Speaking of questions, see, somebody asked me, said, well, are you in the panel with Dr. Fauci? I said, well, no, they didn't put me on the panel, but I bet I'm on their mind. I bet the Your Immunity Project is on their mind if we're not on the panel. But say, if I had been on the panel, I only had one question for Dr. Fauci. And this question has been out there for months now. And nobody seems to be able to answer my question. I don't even think I would need a follow-up question. And the simple question is, who needs a vaccine? He's talking all this stuff about a vaccine, this, vaccine, that. Who needs one? Whatever it does, if it's good or bad, who needs it? Since we have Paximune. And Paximune is research proven to be 100% effective in preventing the spread of COVID-19. No vaccine that you ever heard about is 100% effective, and also has no side effects. What vaccine do you know of that has no side effects? Plus, it's cheap, it's affordable. All you gotta do is spray it in your mouth or your nose. You don't need a shot, you don't need a jab, you don't need to shed blood, you don't need to see a doctor, you don't need an insurance plan. You just have to have sense. And so that's what we try to give out on the Your Immunity Project conference call. And of course, all of these are archived on the Facebook page. And so that would be my question. Who needs a vaccine? And then you ask your doctor. Who needs a vaccine when you have something that is 100% effective in preventing the spread of COVID-19? Then even if prevention fails, it's very, very effective in treating any viral illness. So who needs a vaccine? Answer my question. And so there is no reason for a vaccine. Even if they have the greatest vaccine in the world, it's not needed. So what? So what if you have it? So what if you're going to make $1 billion? We don't need it. Nor do we want it. But we have to prove that scientifically. And so that's what this is all about, to bring all that emotion into a sharp scientific focus so that we actually get somewhere and that we are successful in being those who survive on the other side of whatever this is. So Brother Scott is down there in Tuskegee, and we're trying to assemble a research group. We're going to meet this Thursday, and we're going to see what the possibilities are. And hopefully I'll be able to, or he will be able to give us a report this time next week. You see, so the institutions are coming together. A lot of these black institutions, just to be fair to them, and to be fair to some of our political leadership, sometimes we see them doing things that we think they shouldn't be doing, but they're kicking and screaming. They don't want to do it, but they're twisting their arms. I'll tell you what one infectious disease specialist at Howard University told me back when we were introducing interferon for HIV. And they invited me here. Here I am, a general surgeon, and I'm addressing the infectious disease department at Howard University. So ironic, a surgeon. And so I was telling them what I knew at the time about interferon, and they were very accepting of it. But yet nothing ever happened. And so one of the infectious disease doctors pulled me aside and she said, Dr. Muhammad, we understand what you're saying. We know you're right. But we're not free like you. See, you're free. You can do what you want to do. But we're not free. We have people that we have to answer to. And that just struck me at that moment. Because it never occurred to me what it meant to be free. I thought all doctors were equal. But then the Holy Quran asked that question. So is the free man the same as the slave? And the answer is no. And so we have doctors that are full of knowledge, other professionals full of knowledge, but they're not free. And so part of the Your Immunity Project is to free our doctors and free our nurses and free our professionals so they can act on what they actually know and not be bound by those that they feel that they have to answer to. So I think the only one I got to answer to is God. So I don't want to be on Judgment Day fumbling and stumbling or not coming up with the right answers. What did you know? What did you do with what you know? Who did you help with what you know? And what did you hide? What did you keep back? Whose blood is on your hands? See, I don't want any blood on my hands. I don't know about you. I'm scared of God. I am. I'm scared. So I have to do all I can. Number one, to save my own life, because it's a blessing to be given life. And so we should fight like hell to preserve our individual lives and do what we know to preserve our lives and not be foolish with our lives and not gamble with our lives. But then if we can, we should reach out and help others. So the Quran says, he who saves a life, it is as though he had saved the lives of all men. You see, so that's what the Your Immunity Project is all about. That's the ethics of it. That's the professionalism of it. That's the science of it. You see, it's not about the money, it's about the lives of God's people. And so we're blessed to be in this fortunate position where we have some leverage on that. And we're going to exercise that leverage, and we're going to force the issue as much as God will permit us in the direction of the salvation of his people. And we believe that God will grant us success, and we will be able to save all of those that God intends to save by his permission. So anyhow, that's my little sermon for tonight. And I think